Schalke looked a lot stronger than their most recent. Weeks 1 through 3, this is a team that went 5 wins, 1 loss. And over the last 5 games, they're 2 wins and 3 losses. So for Schalke, it's also about a little bit of a return to form. They got taken down by G2 yesterday. They lost to Vitality last week. A little bit of pressure on them. They're still sitting comfortably in this race for playoffs, up in 3rd. And it's early Lissandra pick for Pirean.
That surprises me. They really want to take that away from Abbedagge. Perhaps they think that this is his most comfortable champion and they want to try and deny it from him. The Yasuo is still up, but the fact that Lissandra's already been locked in could perhaps dissuade Schalke from prioritizing it. A Tahm Kench first pick. That is very surprising. Like, Alistar is still available. I understand. Well, I guess with Thresh and Braum banned away, they just feel that Alistar's really the only next best support left up. So they go, you know what? We'll grab ourselves the Tahm Kench and lock it. It's just very surprising. Well, I've very rarely seen it first picked.
This is the first TK for IgNar this split. And also on the Lissandra, it is both Pirean and Abbedagge's most played champions. Pirean, 4 games, 3 wins, 1 loss. Abbedagge, 5 games, 2 wins, 3 losses. That Cassiopeia, don't forget, it is a flex. We'll see whether or not Upset decides to play. He's only played 3 champions this split. Ezreal, Kaisa, and Siva. Ezreal is locked away, as well as Nocturne on the side of SK Gaming. So Schalke have a chance to reply.
SK have set up really well to play around the mid lane. The moment both Lissandra and Nocturne hit 6, very easy to set up a lot of plays around the mid half of the map. Now, I'm expecting this Cassia to actually be played mid lane into the Lissandra. She has the advantage of outranging her, which means that during the laning phase, you can generate a lot of pressure. And when you pair it up with an Olaf, the 2v2 is actually very strong. It's just really important that Abbedagge converts that, what looks like a teleport right now, into a cleanse, so that he can remove that ultimate and then actually come out ahead in this 2 versus 2. So I think Schalke right now have kind of prepared pretty well for this 2 versus 2, but by putting an early priority on support, what it means is that their AD carry pool is going to get pinched while they themselves can pinch that support pool.
What does SK prioritize as the next ban? I mean, do they take Kaisa off the table and
I think you should, yeah.
Put Upset onto something else that he hasn't played yet?
Definitely Kaisa, especially against the Ezreal as well. Not only is it one of Upset's best champions, but it's also just generally a pretty good matchup. So I think it makes the most sense. I think you take him off it.
Well, we got 20 seconds left before we find out what SK wants to do. What I like though, Vedius, is just before the draft started, you discussed how SK could try to activate Pirean, maybe try to play around him, try to enable him. And with the Nocturne and the Lissandra and a self-reliable, self-sustainable maybe, bot lane and Ezreal, they're going to be pretty comfortable with that. Sion is a pivot in that last second, so Kaisa is open. The question is, what would you run as a top lane that Werlyb, wouldn't want to run into Sion? I mean, Urgot open and available as well, unpicked and unbanned all the way down to phase 2.
That's true. I can't believe we completely forgot about Urgot. Yeah, there's no reason for Schalke not to lock in the Urgot, especially with the Sion banned away. I think SK have kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit. They're now forced to go for something like maybe a Vladimir, a Ryze, a Kennen as a kind of answer.
0-2 on Werlyb's Kennen. Araneo has spoken a little bit on the analyst desk about how he felt Werlyb could be stepping up, and of the members of the former Mad Lions, he was one of the guys he was looking at to step up. And we've got, again, more tools to support a roaming gameplay or to put some pressure in the mid lane. Pyke secured for Dreams.
So I like Pyke, especially when you pair it up with the Ezreal. Champions that can self-peel for themselves work really well when paired up with Pyke because it allows him to play as aggressive as possible. Also, you actually have a lot of kill threat with the Ezreal Pyke, especially once you come back with a Sheen. So I quite like the bot lane here from SK. Definitely another lane that Selfmade could look to play around. And if they round things out with a Kennen, ooh, the other option is a potential Yorick. And as I just say that, they immediately pivot to it. So in the early laning phase, things might be rough for Werlyb. But once he gets level 6, once he gets a couple more levels under his belt, then the matchup definitely gets a lot easier, and he definitely outscales him in a side lane later on.
All right, so Urgot into Yorick is a matchup I'm excited to see, especially as Yorick has seemed to just jump up in prominence this weekend. Obviously, a couple of bans here and there, and a last-second lock-in. It will be the Kaisa. That is no surprise to us on the side of Schalke no fear. And of course, some split-pushing power, some really good pick potential, with that Nocturne, Lissandra, Pyke as well. So 2 different kind of flavors in many ways. But what do you see for Schalke's team composition and how they want to play this game out?
Well, I think it's a little all over the shop, if I'm being honest, QuickShot, because I think they drafted the Cassia Olaf to have a strong 2 versus 2 against the Nocturne Lissandra. They do have the cleanse that we were talking a little bit about, And I think that in lane, Cassio can have the advantage over Lissandra. We can talk more about it, why, once we actually get into the game, but they do have that strong 2v2, and it kind of forces Memento to play around the mid lane. Down towards the bot side of the map, though, when you pair the Kaisa up with the Tahm Kench, it's harder to generate pressure, especially once Ezreal comes back into lane with a Sheen, and you pair that up with a Pyke. So I just feel like SK have a couple more options in how they can win this game, because they have pretty solid scaling. They can play 1-3-1 if they are able to get ahead in the early game. The Nocturne can set up a lot of really strong picks. And they have pretty solid poke and siege. Whereas for Schalke, they do have strong scaling aspects in the form of Cassio and Kaisa, but I feel like that they're lacking an engage, and they're going to be forced to rely on things like Baron or Dragon in order to actually start fights and force SK to come to them, when in reality, if they can just get ahead early, they don't really need to, because they can just play on sides and keep Schalke split apart.
Very, very interesting. So a lot of what you said favors SK's draft this game. SK Gaming picked blue side coming into the German derby to see whether or not they will step up, even out the head-to-head, and be one step closer to a playoffs berth. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Schalke 04 taking on SK Gaming. Another very, very important game. This is hugely influential in that battle for 6th place. And of course, it is more important for SK to pick up a win here. Put some distance between Fnatic and Misfits, and you can see Schalke have already set themselves up a little bit of pressure. Crownshot takes a whole lot of damage and a respect flash early on. So that means a flashless Ezreal to start the lane.
So this means that SK, having spotted both, well, mainly Odoamne on the bot side, means that SK want to try and get some vision towards the enemy jungle, top side rather, so they can get a bit more information as to where Memento is starting. Right now, all they were able to do is get vision on the Raptors, but this is fine because Memento will often go red into the Raptors, which means that SK should now have a good idea of what Memento's plan is. And we'll keep an eye on what the junglers are doing in the early levels, because the fact that Crownshot has burnt his flash means that he can't afford to give a push. He needs to get to the lane as quickly as possible, which means that I don't think he can really afford to give a pull. So I don't know if that's the reason why Selfmade is starting topside, but regardless, Selfmade, I think he just wanted to guarantee that assistance, which is why he's now starting on the move.
Okay, fair enough. And of course, we'll see if this impacts any sort of gank pathing as the laning phase plays out. Talking about laning phase, triple teleports on the side of SK, Werlyb, Pirean, and Crownshot. Only the two for Schalke, Upset and Odo. Abbedagge has taken that cleanse into what is a fair amount of hard CC on the side of SK, especially the Lissandra matchup. Not something you really want to be dealing with. And as it stands, some pressure here for Upset and IgNar. They're pushing into Dreams and Crownshots.
So this gives us a bit of an opportunity to talk about this bot lane matchup. You can see that the thing about Kaisa and Ezreal is I feel really strongly that it can be really difficult for Ezreal to get priority in lane without the assistance of his support, right? Because when he's clearing minions, the best he can do is land a Q. And while it's all well and good that he's able to Q the minion wave before his opposition, Kaisa has way more wave clear. And when you pair that up with a Targon's AD carry, it just means that very naturally, early on, you get the push. And immediately, IgNar is using that as an opportunity to get a bit of deep vision. But the crucial thing here is that once Dreams gets a couple more levels, and once Crownshot has come back with a Sheen, because once he's got enough money, he should go back to base, then teleport back into lane. That's when they can actually start looking for a couple of trades, because early on, Kaisa's not the strongest duelist, but it's really important that you land that Q from the Pyke, because
Bone Skewer.
It has a really long cooldown, 16 seconds at level 1, which means that there is a huge window where Pyke can do nothing, which means that you can just look for plays like this where you can just walk up and you have nothing to be afraid of.
Oh, I love it. Love watching Tahm Kenches using that Devour and the Tongue Lash, trying to get some of that CC done, especially when paired with the ability to chase on Kaisa. And I know you feel very strongly about the Ezreal matchup, and Vedius, I also know you feel very strongly about Yorick. We've been talking a lot about Yorick in the top lane, and you mentioned already in draft that at least early stages will be a bit challenging.
Yes.
Into this Urgot matchup. So when do you expect to see Werlyb being able to, push back or contest, or maybe even look for kills?
So typically, having spoken to one, I spoke to him this morning and asked him about this matchup in particular, and he says that at early levels, often it can be very difficult
so difficult for Werlyb right now.
Hang hang
could
on.
not have set you up for failure.
Now,
better.
hang on. There's a reason for it, because that was just a misplay from Odoamne, right? Now, he could have died had Werlyb had his ghouls up and available, but the fact is Werlyb just burnt his flash, and Memento is lying in wait. So this could be the deathbed for Werlyb.
Dum. Dark Procession comes up. That's a flash over for Memento. Manages to keep throwing out the undertow, and it just ends up being a trade. Takes another slap in the face with a piece of meat, and Werlyb is able to escape. But yes, obviously, if Odo doesn't get caught inside the W,
yes, that's the crucial thing, right? You know, so typically what happens, right, is in the early levels, we saw Werlyb getting pushed underneath his tower, right? And the reason for that is he doesn't have that much wave clear. He's also playing against a ranged champion, so he often loses priority. It can also be quite difficult for Yorick to actually close the gap. And one way in which he can harass is when he does have the ghouls alive. If he lands the E, then all of the ghouls can do a decent chunk of damage onto the Urgot. But on top of that, it gives you a bonus movement speed that helps you close the gap, so you can then trade with the Urgot. And it can sometimes be difficult for the Urgot because of the delay on his E, the dash, that he can get trapped inside the Yorick W. So it can go in favor of the Yorick, but it's better and better the longer the laning phase goes on. The fact that Odoamne has no flash now is definitely a good situation for Werlyb to be in.
And of course, because of the flashless situation for Odo, he places down that control ward, which Selfmade has now cleared out. And crucially as well, Vedius, you talked about the bot laners. We caught a glimpse of Upset. He's teleported back to lane, got himself the pickaxe. It has now been mirrored by Crownshot, who is down 4 CS. He's got the Sheen, as well as another Sapphire Crystal. And I am very interested to see how both duos play out. Cassio into Lissandra is slightly less exciting right now, but obviously as they have access to their ultimates, with jungler intervention, there is a lot of kill threat on both sides.
There certainly is. Mid lane matchup is the one I'm most interested in, but we might not have time for it as IgNar gets stunned out.
It's a lot of damage onto IgNar, but that grey health will help him out. Both of these supports with really frustrating HP regen mechanics.
Yes, but you can see here as well how well Crownshot and Dreams can actually trade when they land the Bone Skewer. So the problem is, again, it's just the reality is the wave clear just isn't there for Dreams, and because he can't assist Ezreal in pushing out the minion wave, unless he has priority in the lane, like he's threatening in the bush, or he has the Bone Skewer up and is threatening Upset, there's no way for Crownshot to really push out this wave. So Upset and IgNar will be the ones conventionally just pushing and pushing and pushing. And that's why it's really important for them that they have that vision control and the safety to do this, because if they overstep and Dreams finds a good flank, then it becomes very easy to set up for Selfmade to come in now that he's level 6.
Well, if you look at the minimap, there's not that much vision right now. Earlier, when Upset and IgNar pushed all the way to the tower, IgNar left Upset to go place some wards in the Krugs camp.
Yes.
So I want to see that happening again. His trinkets on cooldown, no wards in the inventory for now. And we catch a glimpse back in this mid lane. A lot of the champions, the likes of Nocturne, the likes of Pyke, can help out with Pirean. Bone Skewer easily slithered away from. And that means this time around, no assistance for Pirean. I was waiting to see if he carried on.
So to talk more about why Pyke Ezreal is such a good duo is that Ezreal is really good by himself because he has the E to get out of danger and he can farm from range with his Q. It basically means that Pyke has the freedom to go roam around the map as well and look for opportunities like that. It's much harder for the Tahm Kench because if you leave Upset by himself, it's very easy to set up a play, especially before he hits that level 6 mark. So I really like that from the side of Dreams and looking for another opportunity, especially if you can get the cleanse out from Abbedagge. It would make ganking mid lane so much easier.
Well, so far, very even start to the game. Werlyb, after getting access to his ultimate, managed to catch another W, hold Odo in place, and now with a little bit more AD and access to the Maiden of the Mist, is now pushing all the way forward. Actually going to pick up a turret plate as well. Really effective, but while that pressure's going on, it opens up Dragon here for Memento.
But you can also see how pivotal that mistake was from Odoamne earlier on when he was pushing underneath the tower at level 3. The fact that he got caught in the W of Werlyb and then just sat there and took so much damage without being able to trade back meant that he lost his flash, he still doesn't have it, and now because he doesn't have much vision control towards the top side, he knows his jungler is clearing Drake, he's forced to play defensively, so he's losing a lot of farm that just went away underneath the turret, and he's falling behind in levels and just having to play defensive. So this Yorick matchup will now only get better and better. He's now completed the Sheen, which will make him that much stronger. So Schalke kind of being forced to play towards the bot side of the map because they know how strong the Yorick is right now.
Got it. And of course now, with the fact that, Werlyb was top, Selfmade went in for that invade as well. Memento comes in for that dragon. While that's happening, Abbedagge and Upset push all the way down to their respective towers, opponents' towers, and that allowed some deep vision to get placed. You can see a couple of wards inside the Tribush and just behind the red buff, control ward there that Selfmade may clear out in a moment or two. As Dreams, in fact, will spot this out. So, very good heads-up play, actually from both teams, trying to push this advantage, trying to push into the opponent's territory, and it's SK Gaming with an 800 gold advantage. There's a turret plate in the top lane that's helping them out. A little bit of Klepto stacks as well. And we're still just building up the pressure towards these first big skirmishes.
But the thing is, like, you still want to see the Olaf actually try and make plays in the early game, because the longer the game goes, the harder it is for him to have impact. And the thing about Nocturne is, it's not like, against this comp, it's really difficult. As a Nocturne aficionado, when I look at this comp, I think this is really difficult because there's a Tahm Kench to provide peel for the Cassio. And Cassio, the really obnoxious thing about her is, while you can spell shield one Q, the fact that Miasma is a thing and the fact that the Q is on such a low cooldown means that if Nocturne ends up in a 1v1 against her, he doesn't usually win it unless he's really far ahead. So like, the whole draft on the side of Schalke, the longer this game goes on, it's really difficult for Nocturne to play. But at the same time, Olaf is in a similar situation, like, because there's so much kiting power on the side of SK. Like, you have all the stall from Pirean, you have the amount of mobility from Crownshot. Like, both these junglers are going to be less and less relevant the longer the game goes.
But what I love is then it comes down to execution. It comes down to vision,
that's for sure, decision
making, and both of these teams hotly contesting themselves spots in the playoffs. Now, Abbedagge will be in a little bit of pressure.
Wait.
Whoa, Memento! That's not a time to use your hourglass! That is not the time to push that button!
What the hell just happened? Memento! He was there ready to help Abbedagge, and now this is just going to pad out the death stat for Abbedagge, as he thought his jungler was there, but he used the stopwatch. He's unavailable. And that was a massive whoopsie-daisy.
Oh, no ways can you get away with that one. SK Gaming were already slowly clawing ahead.
All right, let's have a look. Let's see what he does it. So he's just sitting here. He knows that this is going to happen. He's ready. How? How do you do this? Like, what?
Feels bad, man.
What do you...
Absolutely. It is a mistake.
To ward?
It is a mistake. It is a misplay. It is a misclick. We will find out.
Terrible.
You know what?
QuickShot.
I predict a salty tweet later today. We'll find out from Memento. But that could be so crucial because Rift Herald as well as Warrior Enchant picked up now for Selfmade. And he has a working stopwatch. Odo this time doesn't get caught inside the Dark Procession. Werlyb and Selfmade considered the dive, but they didn't want to risk it into the fear beyond death.
Oh, okay, so I understand what happened. He's running... hang on, wait. Okay, we're good. So, he's running Predator. So when he procs the Predator, when he upgraded his boots, the boots moved to a different slot, which is why he used the stopwatch rather than the Predator. So if he'd actually used his Predator here, he would have been fine.
Right.
But he basically pressed the wrong button because when he bought, the boots moved to a different slot.
Ladies and gentlemen, professional League of Legends players make the same mistakes that you all do at home. I'm looking them in the eyes right now. A lot of people shaking their heads, liars. Nevertheless, Schalke Nulfear now trying to bounce back. Memento has Predator used. He clicked the right button.
He did.
This time around, but there's no opportunity for him. And with the tower falling in the top lane, it's a 2,500 gold lead to SK Gaming. And you will hear the story a lot over the coming weeks, but take a look at the standings between SK, Schalke, the rest of the field. We'll pull it up for you in a moment. There we go. SK Gaming is tied with Misfits right now, 5 wins, 6 losses. Schalke currently 7-4. It is only a few games between each of these respective teams, and only the top 6 managed to make it to playoffs.
And top 2 is extremely important because it guarantees you top 3 now in our current LEC format. So finishing in second place, which is definitely what Schalke will want to do, given their current positioning in the standings, means that a win here means a lot. And you know, you got to think of, like, tiebreakers are a thing as well. We still have 6 more games for each team to play after today.
Yep.
And so, you know, not winning today can make your chances of avoiding tiebreakers that much higher. So right now, Schalke at a huge deficit. They're down a tower. They're down a lot of gold. A lot of it currently sits on Werlyb. He's played the lane very well. And he's getting to a point where now Odoamne can't really deal with him in a side lane.
Now, fortunately, if Memento or Upset and IgNar come to help Odo, in a 2-on-1, 3-on-1 scenario.
I still
there
think
is.
they lose.
You reckon he's that strong?
But I mean, Trinity Force, level 11 Yorick. I said it yesterday. I think that's why he's at his strongest, because you have 2 points in the ultimate, and you also have a completed Trinity Force. So you also have your, I'm pretty sure you max your Q. I'm pretty confident, which means that it has basically no cooldown, which is really scary to deal with. So
last rights, the Q for Yorick is being maxed. While you can't see it on our overlay, if you watch on watch.lolesports.com, you can see the skill orders of all of the champions in the game, so check that out.
Oh, cool.
And right now, Werlyb, can he win 1v2? He's about to get level 11. I want to see Upset jump into IgNar's belly and then use that Abyssal Voyage to chase down. And I think that can be one tool, but hopefully there'll be some towers to push onto as well. And right now, Schalke are playing from behind. Both of these teams lost yesterday. Both of these teams want to pick up some more momentum, but only one of these teams has very good vision in this bottom right-hand quadrant. This is allowing SK to push all the way to the bottom outer turrets.
Well, Pirean right now has the ability to push in mid and then move down to the river with his jungler. Memento only just now coming back from base will be trying to assist his bot team. But again, Upset and IgNar right now are forced to play on the defensive because they realize that they don't have the support from the rest of their team. And while turret planing has gone, the risk of a dive is very high. So Schalke just playing around that. And I think right now Schalke just relying on the scaling of Cassio and Kaisa. Still very relevant in the late game, and especially once they've completed like 3 items, they'll both be very strong.
Okay, Memento's waiting in the wings this time around. It's a 3-on-3, and Abbedagge has now started to move. The Devour will buy some time as Upset runs for his life. Selfmade's now caught in the middle of the fight as the Turbish turns back around. First kill onto IgNar. SK Gaming have gone fishing and found themselves a target. Upset re-engages with the killer instinct, but there's not enough damage. There's not enough frontline. The Bone Skewer pulls one back. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of SK Gaming, but they get access to the tower.
And Abbedagge couldn't get there fast enough to help his team out, meaning that SK, with the strong enough dive, immediately jump onto Upset, forcing him to get into the belly of IgNar, and at that point, Schalke are in full retreat. So SK come out on top, they secure another tower, and they extend the goal lead to 3.5k.
This is fantastic for SK Gaming. They lost the first time they played against Schalke, so this will even the head-to-head if they can progress to the Nexus. And take me through this dive. I mean, it's just really good play by SK.
Note how much poke the Upset had already taken at the start of the fight as well, and unfortunately for IgNar, he'd already used his flash earlier on, so with the amount of crowd control available on the rest of SK, they're able to find that kill, but now Schalke looking for another fight.
All right, Werlyb doesn't have access to the ultimate. The Devour comes back up, but look at just how much damage is being put down between Pirean and Werlyb. That Morning Mist and some of the ghouls just really frustrating to deal with. Now the tower is under pressure. This is the 3rd potential tower kill for SK. They don't have the minions to work with, so they back away for now. And also 2-item spike for Crownshot. Manamune and the Iceborne Gauntlet, so he's also in a very good situation.
Yep. Moving into the 17-minute mark. I feel like SK just have full control of the map right now. They have really strong side laners. Lissandra having already completed the Luden's Echo. I think she's working towards the Proto Belt next as well. She just has a lot of just raw AP and has plenty of wave clear. And again, remember, SK, if they get ahead early, they can just split up the map. So Schalke never really have the opportunity to team fight, which is a really good situation for them because Schalke, they want to group up. They want to try and force those 5v5s as much as possible, but SK won't let them.
And I mean, Vedius, do you think it's fair that this is getting progressively more difficult for Schalke? You talked about some of the challenges.
Progressively? It's really difficult, Trevor.
Some of the challenges that their draft is going to have if SK gets ahead, because SK can set up the 1-3-1, and there's not great answers or great tools for Schalke. I still think IgNar's Abyssal Voyage is one of them.
Yes.
But it has to be executed flawlessly.
I mean, right now, I think what Schalke's relying on is SK have proven that they have this tendency to group and fight more often than they try to play these slow, calm, calculated side lane plays. And so I'll be keeping my eye on how well SK set up pressure across the other sides while playing around objectives. Because in the past, they haven't been that great at it, but they have a very solid split push comp that they will need to be able to execute properly if they want to secure the win against Schalke.
Okay, SK Gaming now moving into this Baron phase of the game. But before that, Abyssal Voyage is now used. Defensive Flash and Arcane Shift. Crownshot escapes with his life for now. Schalke throw everything in the kitchen sink at SK, and it does nothing. It manages to get a couple flashes, sure, but 1-3-1 activated. Pirean's chipping away top tower. Werlyb is going to be chipping away the bottom tower. And SK are still in full control of the game.
Welcome to split pushing. They tried to punish mid, and if they secured those kills, maybe they converted into another objective, but instead they don't. Both flashes are burned from SK, and a lot of chip damage is done onto both these tier 2 towers. So SK, so far, playing the map very well.
And of course, I want to go back to something we said in Picks and Bans, Vedius. The win-loss for Schalke. During weeks 1 through 3, this was a team that went 5 wins, 1 loss. Now, over the last 3 weeks, between 4 and 6, they're 2 wins, 3 losses.
Yeah.
And I know you in particular were talking a little bit about how Schalke seem to have stagnated, or the way they're playing the game isn't as crisp as the opening weeks, and we're kind of seeing it again.
It's kind of frustrating to watch Schalke, because in the first few weeks, they reminded me a lot of Fnatic from last year, where they just seem to have everything, and they seem to be able to play all these different kind of comps, and they're pretty reliable. But ever since the patch change, it feels like that they have been struggling to know what to do in draft. Their options have been a little bit limited, and Memento's early game impact has kind of stagnated. And in particular this game, if they had won that 2v2 in mid, this could have been a very different game, because Pirean isn't then as strong enough to be able to threaten on side, and for them to set up that bot lane dive would have been much harder. But those kind of misplays from Memento, it's not the first time that we've seen them this split, and unfortunately, because he hasn't been able to have an impact in the early game, I struggle to see how he'll further have an impact in the rest of the game. And again, Schalke have no engage, so it's really difficult for them to like threaten something, because there's nothing that SK really have to be afraid of when they have Pyke, Ezreal, and Lissandra, who are extremely mobile carries.
And also in terms of just complexity of executing, you know, the simplicity of some of SK's tools really makes it a little bit more reliable, especially when you've got a 6,000 gold lead. And then you've still got the safety of Pyke and Ezreal. As you can see them stepping forward, poking with those Mystic shots. So Baron game initiated. SK are pushing the vision into the top half. They have control of the mid lane. They've got that shoving forward. Werlyb is teleport available to him, so he's going to go bot. And now we get to play the Judge SK's Baron game. For the time being, it's a decent start.
Well, I don't think they need to start the Baron, but right now they're just setting up vision because it becomes easier to find picks. And fun fact, if you have push in top and you have push in mid, and the enemy tries to walk through the jungle, it means that they can get picked off and die. And then you can convert it into a Baron. But I think starting it would be really dangerous, because if they want to start it, they would have to bring Werlyb to the rest of the team, which is never really where you want him. You want him sitting on a side lane, generating pressure by just clearing those minion waves and winning out on those 1v1s.
Now, of course, we know that SK is in a pretty commanding position, so we'll have some time to discuss SK's spring split a little later. I want to look at Schalke's strength of schedule, the games they still have to play after this one. Today, they're playing SK Gaming. Next week, Fnatic Splice, then XL, Misfits, and OG. So for Schalke, not exactly the most difficult of strength of schedules when you consider Fnatic, XL, Misfits in theory.
I mean, it depends if Fnatic win today, right?
It does indeed. But that's a big question mark. And if you're a Schalke fan, and if you want, you know, Schalke to be one of the organizations that guarantees a playoff spot, they need to start picking up wins, whether it's today or some of those follow-up games. And it just gets progressively more difficult with each and every loss. Boneskewer does find a target, but SK, as you mentioned, Vedius, they're just playing the vision game. They're playing the pressure game. They're very content with the lead they have.
It's just funny because this is exactly how Schalke used to play. If you had, if you go back to week 2 and you swap the nameplates, you'd be accurate, right? So, and it just goes to show how much growth SK has made over the course of the split. When I felt like they were stagnating and struggling as a team, we're now here in week 6, and they're doing to Schalke what Schalke did to them.
I tell you what, week 2, when I said Crownshot Ezreal, what GIF or emoji would you have given me?
Oh, definitely an XD one.
And now week 6, Crownshot Ezreal.
He's doing a good job.
And it's just, I think he was one of the guys that was very heavily criticized because of some pretty obvious mistakes in the early stages of the week.
That's fair.
And as you rightfully said, not only Crownshot, but the entire team has rightfully so stepped up and
now
found themselves some rhythm.
The problem is QuickShot. The game is slowing down a lot.
So this is good for Schalke.
Well, yes, because the thing about the Kaisa is she is behind the Ezreal right now by 1,200 gold, but she is working towards the Rage Blade. It's not that far off because she's actually sitting on a decent amount of gold, and the Cassio has actually now fully completed the Leandries, so she's at 2 items as well. So the 2 big carries, or the carry threats on the side of Schalke, are actually getting to a point where they're really strong, And SK are now at that kind of power point, and they still have scaling. They're still going to be relevant as the game goes on, but this is where SK, I feel, if they're going to force anything, need to force it now.
Give me a definitive answer. Which AD do you prefer right now? Crownshot, considering he has 3 completed items?
Crownshot, that's not even a discussion.
Upset, well, there you go. Simple fact. So even though Upset has got that Rage Blade activated, one misstep in a team fight into Nocturne, Yorick, Lissandra, Ezreal is absolutely terrifying. And SK, after conceding the first 2 Cloud Drakes, will now pick up an Ocean and an Infernal. We should get one more Elemental Drake before the Elder. An interesting stat for you. Whoa, Pirean. He's caught inside the river. Does manage to take the claw. Flashes over as well. Takes the blast cone. And Pirean escapes with his life, but it's at the cost of his flash. I didn't see how he got stuck in the pit. That is a...
He just cleared an award, mate.
No, risky business.
Really, I would say that it was not optimal positioning. His team was doing a Drake, and he decided to clear out some vision. And fun fact, when you clear out vision, you give information to the enemy team as to where you are, and he's clearing out a control ward as well, which already gives vision. So
yeah.
The thing is, if the miasma was placed slightly more inside the pit, that would have guaranteed a kill, because he wouldn't have been able to teleport to his E then. So slight misplay there from Abbedagge, on top of the fact that he flashed over the wall onto a blast cone. Definitely very irritating.
Yeah, very irritating indeed. And I also just took a look, as you mentioned, both Abbedagge and Pirean in the same breath. Abbedagge right now is 1-2-0, and the analysts hit on it just before the game. Abbedagge dies a lot. As far as mid laners go, his early game deaths pre-15 is double the mid lane average. It's some early game concessions that simply cost his team, you know, a lot of gold, a lot of control. But to be fair, when we take the entire games into consideration, Pirean and Abbedagge both die a lot in the grander scheme of things over the course of the entire game. Give you some numbers. Abbedagge's died 25 times total over the 11 games. Pirean 29 times.
Ooh, Trevor, the baton has begun.
And is this good or bad? That's
no teleport onto Odoamne right now. Is he going to trade it for the Ignite? Can he even do that?
Memento's got flash available if he wants to get into the pit. Crownshot and Dreams are starting to zone away. That's going to flash inside. It's secured! It's stolen by Memento! He makes up for the stopwatch misplay by stealing Baron. But take a look at Dreams. He goes fishing and finds himself in Urgot. Urgot gets devoured by IgNar. They continue to chase away. IgNar goes low. Pirean uses the hourglass. Here comes Dreams! Depth from below! But the fear beyond death gets a trade back. Odoamne gets himself a double kill. Berlin screams in elation, but Memento steals Baron.
Ends in disaster for SK as they tried to force the ban, thinking that Odoamne couldn't get there in time, but it ends up getting stolen from them anyway. Schalke now look to defend their base.
All right, with Baron empowered minions, this will help somewhat. They're able to clear out the minions, and Schalke are in a 5,000 gold deficit, but Memento comes up with the hero play.
This is the most dangerous way to force the ban. They thought that they could generate a numbers advantage here, and they thought this would be safe to do. The problem is Schalke have so much vision here because SK have just skipped all the steps. They haven't gained control over River, they haven't set up and invaded the enemy jungle, and it just means that you get a flash over the wall, it's an Olaf who can't be CC'd, and he secures the steal. Very greedy play from SK that ends up getting punished.
Memento, your sins have been forgiven, and you have been rewarded with an Alienware big play. Baron steal, but it is at the cost of several team members, 3 at the end of the play. So Baron on Odo and Upset will be crucial in stalling this game out, and I think even more importantly, they didn't lose the inhibitor turret in the mid lane. Odoamne's Urgot did a ton of damage.
11? What?
On the back half of that fight.
Sorry, I don't know how he did 11.
Auto,
That's just a hilarious, 11?
I tell you what, we'll have to see if the mechanics team can break down how Cassiopeia does 11 damage in that scenario.
Yeah.
But I think crucially, this helps Schalke stall the game.
Yes, basically.
But they need a whole lot more if they want to regain control, because their team composition has a lot of difficulty.
I mean, it's interesting. You're right. It's really difficult for Schalke to engage, but what they can do is look for things like this.
All right, so there we go. There's the engage. Paranoia will buy some time. Selfmade doesn't use the secondary proc, and I can confirm with the help of my stats and observer team, Abbedagge got 1 auto attack off. That is it. That is all he got to send out, was 1 little slither. Now Odoamne We'll be putting pressure onto this tower. Here comes Dreams. Waiting for the bone skewer, not going to fire it just yet. Disdain already used, and there is some pressure. Look at the mini-map.
IgNar needs to use his ultimate now, but unfortunately he's too afraid to, because he thinks that depending on who he brings in, he could just get 2v1'd by the Yorick. So they don't end up using it, they don't find a collapse. It's actually Schalke that come out behind there because they end up losing the tower, and you can even see the Baron power play minus gold going in favor of SK.
Well, when you lose 3 immediate members, 2 towers, and a whole bunch of CS, it obviously is going to hurt you. The Elemental Drake will be spawning. This is the 5th of the game. Should be uncontested here by SK. And if you look at the itemization, tier build fully stacked for Crownshot. He's got 4 completed items. Duskblade of Drakthar for Dreams as we're getting to 30 minutes. And Upset has now added the Hurricane to his Rage Blade and his IE. But it is still a 6,000 gold deficit. And we have just enough time for 1 more Elemental Drake before Elder. If you were SK, I think you would have hoped for that Elder. You could use that to speed up the game a little more.
For sure.
I always wonder if teams shouldn't try to delay 1 minute. You know, just try to get close to the threshold, so once you secure it, the next one is Elder.
I mean, true.
But it's not something we see a whole lot, so I'll save that discussion for another day.
So I think Schalke's in such a weird spot right now, because I'm trying to think of what can they do in the situation that they're in, because one option is you try and attack the sides, right? So you can maybe, when Yorick is pushing, like set up a gank. But the real problem is that Schalke has no towers yet. All of the outer towers for SK are alive, which means that SK have so much safety, and the risk of them getting flanked is very, very low. So Schalke basically are relying on SK to make mistakes. And all they need to do is wait for the next Baron to spawn, right? And they can just, okay, so this is one potential pick.
Well, let's see what Werlyb can do. He's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Disdain comes out. Werlyb decides to turn this around. Here comes Crownshot and Dreams. Werlyb does so much damage with the help of Selfmade. Schalke and Ulfio running for their lives. Memento stays alive just long enough, but Odoamne is now down. Selfmade goes very, very low. He is killed after being taken out. Depth from below comes out from Dreams. Goes golden to heal up some HP. It ends up being a 1 for 2 in favor of SK.
And this is the thing, because SK still have a gold advantage, even though Schalke went for the pick there onto Yorick, you could see how much sustain and durability that he had, just flashing into the fight, saying, you know what, I'm prepared to take this. We have the Nocturne ultimate, we have 2 teleports, only Pirean had to use it, which means that Memento was forced out of the fight immediately. Odoamne was left by himself on the backline, and Upset just couldn't deal with the fact that a Nocturne was diving onto his face. And again, in this situation, you think, okay, they've caught him out. The rest of SK aren't set up to punish us anywhere else on the map. This is a great situation for us, right? IgNar actually cancels the flank, and he doesn't actually come in from behind. I guess because he was worried about the Nocturne ultimate.
I thought IgNar got knocked backwards by the blast cone.
Oh,
yep.
That might have happened as well.
I think Memento got knocked into the blue buff, and look at this, IgNar
oh my god,
with the Devour.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Memento. Again, that's the second crucial mistake of the game.
Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, fans of the LEC, I plead with you, be nice to Memento. This man is going to get wrecked by his teammates. We do not need to pile it on as well. There are some crucial mistakes, small moments that have gigantic impacts on the outcome of this game.
Yeah, good eyes there, QuickShot. Glad you spotted that one out, but yeah, that was crucial. If Upset coming in from the flank, maybe that could have swung the fight, but that Yorick W as well, just causing so much chaos. Now, Odoamne.
All right, so Odoamne gets caught out, throws down the plate as well, survives long enough to flash to safety. And under the guise of paranoia, here comes Selfmade! IgNar forced to flash for his life. Fear beyond deck. That's 1 kill into Selfmade. Remember, his GA was popped in that last fight. Schalke, yes, you've got yourselves a kill, but you are still so far behind. 7,000 gold at this stage of the game.
So, QuickShot, you know, people give North America a lot of criticism for being like, oh, they always have messy games. This is an example of an LEC messy game, because it is mistakes constantly from both sides.
I have to ask, why did the NA need to come in for that?
Because I just feel like they get a lot of criticism and be like, oh, all their games are low quality, right? But this is bad League of Legends right now. Both these teams are making huge mistakes. And Pirean now, he's getting caught off on a side lane. Let's see what this develops.
All right, Pirean runs for his life. Hourglass is still available to him, but there is no flash. Fear beyond death. Gobble, gobble, gobble. 9999. Odoamne 4 1. He is asking Schalke to get into his backpack, and he's trying to turn this around. Bone Skewer pulls Memento back into the ghouls. Teleport's being channeled. I think that's Upset, has joined the fray, but there's enough SK members to push Schalke from Baron.
So the problem for Schalke is if they start the Baron, they run the risk of getting poked out by the Ezreal. There's also the risk of a Nocturne just ulting in and stealing it away, and you really don't want to fight that Yorick in the pit either. So Schalke, they should just focus on getting some of these outer towers down, get some gold back in their pockets, set the opportunity to find some flanks, but this should have been a clean game for SK. That Baron really was a small mistake where they skipped, like they just skipped a lot when they didn't need to. And it meant that Schalke could come back into the game, and now it's just picks on either side. SK are just struggling to know what to do next. And it's allowing Schalke's arguably experience here to come in and punish those very small mistakes.
Now for SK Gaming, as I mentioned earlier, they are in the lead. They are still in a good position to win this game out. And if they close this game out, they equal up their win-loss at 6-6. Take a look at their remaining games. They have both XL and Rogue left in their path, but the difficult task of playing G2 eSports. So for SK strength of schedule, 5 of their next 6 games are on the cards, and there's a couple of wins that you think they should be able to pick up.
You look at the performance of SK right now, right? And sure, their ability to close is definitely questionable, but XL, Splice, and Rogue should all be beatable teams from the perspective of SK. Those are ones that you would put SK as the favorites, whereas Schalke, you look at their opposition and you can't quite be as confident based on their recent play.
And I tell you what, if you are a Misfits or a Fnatic fan, you want SK Gaming to lose every single game on that list, because the more wins SK pick up, the further away from Misfits and Fnatic they get. Now, Schalke, they've got enough control to push out the mid lane. Look at the minimap. Top and bottom is pushing from SK to Schalke's base, and Schalke is starting Baron.
This is the correct decision. You've got to force the Yorick to teleport to you, get him to come and fight you, because you've now got the items to win this fight.
Look how quickly Baron's going down. Werlyb hasn't even started the TP. He's coming in, but it might be too late. Paranoia into the pit. Insecure! That's stolen away! SK Gaming get the Baron, but at what cost? Dreams is already dead. Devoured by some time from Abbedagge. Forced to flash over the wall. Petrifying Gaze did not do enough damage. Werlyb kills IgNar, and SK may have just enough to finish this game off.
And SK end up stealing the Baron away this time round. They find themselves 3 kills as well. And Schalke fall apart. This should be everything that SK need to finally end the game.
Abbedagge is running for his life. Here comes Crownshot. Mystic Shot will not find its target. True Shot Barrage will be available in a moment or two. The inhibitor turret will fall. SK Gaming, after a slugfest in the late game, are now a few towers away from finishing this out. Abbedagge and Upset will have Memento to help them out in just a few seconds, but this is a difficult hold into Werlyb's Yorick.
Yeah, I don't know if they can hold this one off QuickShot. Pyke has gone back to base, but there are still 4 members alive. SK are just slowly sieging onto these Nexus towers.
The Nexus turrets are falling. Upset gets caught inside the pit. Hypercharge will buy some time, but take a look at the back end. Memento goes down once more. Crownshot's Ezreal is destroying Schalke no fear as Schalke run for their lives. The Nexus is being focused, and SK Gaming are 1 step closer to playoffs.
Chaotic game, but an important win for SK as they take down Schalke. It helps them close the gap between the teams sitting at the top of the leaderboard, and Schalke add another loss to their current underperformance in the second half of the split.
Since Broken Shard has joined SK Gaming, they have won 3 out of their last 4 games. And over the last 3 weeks, Schalke Null Fear have got 2 wins and 4 losses. This is a gigantic win for SK. They even the head-to-head at 1 win apiece with Schalke, and now they are 1 game behind them. 1 win behind Schalke, who's in 3rd, 4th place right now.
And a lot of props to Werlyb. I think that he had the stronger matchup with the Yorick. He punished a big mistake that Odoamne made in lane, and he did not let go. He kept scaling and scaling, and ultimately the mistake came from SK's inability to know what to do, and they had that 1-3-1, right? We talked about how it's at that point in the game where they do make those mistakes. It did come through, but again, Schalke had no tools to turn the fact that they got a Baron back in their favor. They had no reliable engage tools. They had no ways to threaten or start these team fights. And so they ended up having to force the Baron. And then in the end, they all clumped up in the pit against the Lissandra. And the fact that the Nocturne was able to steal away the Baron as well. Pyke too, just executing everyone.
Yep. I am going to say something that is really mean, and I think I have to.
Okay.
Player of the game for SK has to be Memento. I think 2 gigantic blunders, 2 extremely visible blunders. Now, it's counterbalanced by a Baron steal as well, but at this level, with so much at stake in the playoffs race, those misplays with the Hourglass, with the Blast Cone, I mean, we've seen the Blast Cone playing Devil's Advocate many times, but it's hugely impactful deep into the spring splits.
Yeah, it's definitely going to hurt him as a player. He's going to eat himself up a lot because he's going to know that he's a large part of why those deficits came to be. If he could have just won that 2 versus 2, this is why they drafted it. They drafted the Cassio Olaf to have the stronger 2 versus 2. That was the situation that they were waiting for, and then he ends up fumbling it. So definitely he's going to be frustrated with that one, but SK are going to be elated as Werlyb, I feel like, had a great game.
And I think if you look at SK's performance overall, there's a few very clear mistakes, right? But for the most part, they played that comp and they played that game very well. So we do have some key player of the game nominations. Werlyb, Selfmade, and Pirean. Guys, head over to Twitter at LOLesports and let us know who you think is going to win today. Please let it be Werlyb. Don't get me wrong, I love Selfmade. The dude is a beast. But he's won too many of these players of the games, and I think today it's on Werlyb's shoulders.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think he had a great Yorick performance. My only criticism is when he came to do the Baron, but outside from that, flawless Yorick.
I actually need to find out from our production team whether we're even allowed to influence the vote. Like, I actually think that's cheating.
Doesn't matter. We've been doing it for weeks, QuickShot.
We have,
they can't stop us now.
It's a bit late, so we're going to have to find out. We're going to head on stage where Dracos is standing by with the man that I hope doesn't win player of the game.
Cutting Selfmade short, the man who stole the Baron in the end. I do want to get your take on the back half of this game. Memento stole a Baron from you. You stole a Baron back from him. How did that feel? What was going through your head through both of those exchanges?
Well, both Barons were basically 50-50, so it was pure RNG who gonna take it.
At the end of the day, though, you, it feels like, got the one that mattered, and you, the team itself really built up a big lead in the early game, so I'm curious, how is that early game playing out in your guys' mind? Were you guys confident you were going to keep building up these leads? Was there anything you were worried about? Because you seemed in the driver's seat from minute 1.
I think our gameplay was just get level 6 on mid lane and jungle, obviously, and then look for opening play. And since we got that in mid lane, we decided to take Herald and get it for Playtix in top lane. And after first tower for down in top lane, we could just play for Ezreal. And we just got a big lead.
Definitely did, and obviously there's some highlight plays coming in behind you. What you and the team were able to accomplish. Once again, Baron stolen away, not ideal, but I'm curious, you guys picked up the Yorick. This is a pick that we're seeing rise in priority more and more, and it looks like a powerhouse, obviously, in the hands of your top laner. How do you feel about this pick right now? Is this something that more teams should be looking to take away from a guy like Werlyb up top?
I'm not top laner, so I can't really answer this, but from my point of view, I think it's really strong. It's like a new Fiora, but more tanky, I would say.
Definitely looked incredibly strong. As a final question for you, SK just keeps finding these wins. You keep taking down teams that were kind of expected to be top teams, so I'm curious where you see yourself right now in terms of the league standing. Are you a team that can contest the top 2? Are you a team that can for sure lock in one of these playoff spots? How do you see it?
To be fair, I think top 4 is what we are looking for right now. For sure playoffs, but how we will finish, we will see. Let's hope for the best.
All right, calm, patient, not going to promise us too much, but top 4 seems like an excellent goal thus far. That's going to do it for us here when we come back. Our third match of the day. Don't go anywhere.